Christian, thanks for being here, and it's good to have you back on Tech Days.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me again, and thanks for having this video interview.
Your session is about Windows Communication Foundation, and could you tell us a little bit about what it is, and then we're going to what's new in the new version?
Yeah, okay, so the Windows Communication Foundation, or WCF, as it is called worldwide by the geeks, is the basic communication framework or foundation for building application-to-application communication in a services-based approach. So if you need to talk from one application to another application, whether it's on one machine or whether it's on a distributed set of machines, you usually try to use and leverage a framework that does the basic stuff for you. So sending out data, receiving data, serializing data, deserializing data, handling a lot of the security stuff like authentication and authorization. And this is actually what WCF, the Windows Communication Foundation, is all about. A base foundation, a set of APIs, a set of runtime environment, configuration-based approach in order to do application-to-application communication on the .NET framework.
Okay, how do you see the maturity among organizations that are they good at running WCF?
That's a very good question, and I was asked that question this morning when I was doing the podcast interview with Doug. Actually, it's improving. So it has been around since .NET Framework 3.0, and that RTM'd, I guess, in November 2006, so it's 3.5 years by now. The problem was always that the adoption was quite low. So the Windows Communication Foundation adoption, and also its brother-in-law, the Windows Workflow Foundation, had a very, very low adoption rate. So, but what I'm seeing, and I'm from an external company, I'm not with Microsoft, we have our own company doing technical consultancy for software architects and software developers. So we are from the field, and what we see there is that the adoption is now getting better. So people are really jumping onto the bandwagon and now build services-based applications, usually on top of WCF these days. So it's getting better, but in my eyes it could still be higher, the adoption.
Okay, and what's new in the WCF 4?
Yeah, there are some new things, but I guess there are 4 major areas that are worth mentioning. So one of the problematic areas and issues with WCF since the very first version was always that the configuration was kind of complex and error-prone and tedious. So in .NET 4, WCF has some configuration simplification as well as some hosting simplification. That means when you want to expose a service which others want to talk to, there are some things that are now much easier and more convenient. The second area is that there is a new routing service. It's called the routing, or if you are with British English, the routing service.
The routing service? Okay.
So the routing service is actually a technical means in order to implement the intermediate routing pattern. It's a well-known enterprise application architecture pattern. If you want to shield your back-end services from the actual consumer applications, you just introduce a routing service so that the client applications only have to talk to that routing service. So they only need to know this one, they only need to know this one endpoint, and then the routing service is dispatching the messages to the actual business services. Okay, the third area is service discovery. That means that now, under certain network topology circumstances, you are able to discover which services are inside of your network or your subnet. So you don't have to know the exact address, you don't have to know some technical implementation details when it comes to the communication binding stuff in WCF. Usually you only want to know the business side of the service, which is the contract. So what can the service deliver to me? What do I have to send to it? And what would it send back if I send this? Right. So this is also a new feature, service discovery. And last but not least, the fourth one is about improvements when you want to build more web-oriented services. So for the web programming model, and some like to call it the REST programming model, but I'm not going into this now, into this discussion. So if you are all into the web oriented or web HTTP oriented programming model of WCF. There are some smaller enhancements, but they make the developer's life much more easier in WCF. So all in all, I would say WCF 4 is not really a revolution, but it's a smooth evolution.
Okay, good. Thank you, Christian, and I hope you enjoy your stay here in Örebro, and that we'll see you next year on Tech Days, perhaps.
I will. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.